Hello, and welcome to an episode of Todd Talks. From Todd Talks, people listen, fight! Hopefully. I'm very excited today because here we are once again with another Death Battle preview of the 6th episode of the season with Goro from Mortal Kombat versus Machamp from Pokemon. Yes, I still can't believe they're doing this one either. I mean, they've been teasing this for years, and here we are. It's going to be the first 3D battle of the season. They're saying it's going to look awesome, and I'm not going to disagree with that. I haven't seen the Death Battle preview. That I'm going to have to watch that on Friday, but based on their most recent 3D battles that they've done from last season, especially Might and Godzilla. Sorry, I said Godzilla. Ganondorf and Dracula and all the others. You know, they've had some really amazing 3D battles recently. So I'm very excited for this. And this is aiming to be a very brutal physical matchup, despite some special attacks being involved. So let's get right to it. First up, Goro. In the universe of Mortal Kombat, there are multiple realms, and among these multiple realms are species of great power and ability, and among them, and among the most powerful of them, is the Shokan tribe. The Shokan tribes are half human, half dragon, which is very important, and they have 4 arms. And among the greatest of them is the prince known as Goro. Goro, like all Shokan warriors, was aimed to be the most powerful of his realm and faithfully served his father for a very long time. And when Shao Kahn came around and was looking for warriors to help him conquer Earthrealm, Goro not only stepped up, he beat up everybody. Like even the what they call the Great Kung Lao, not the Kung Lao that we know. All right, that's his descendant. All right, but in the first tournament of Mortal Kombat to go and take down Earthrealm, he beat the Great Kung Lao to become its champion. Now, to refresh your memory, by the rules of Mortal Kombat, a realm cannot invade another realm unless they win 10 times in a row in a Mortal Kombat tournament that's had every 50 years. All right? So, darn it, Goro, too many names. Goro won 9 tournaments in a row. He was the reason that Shao Kahn was so close to winning Earthrealm. So, just by that token, just by in those tournaments, he has 9 tournament appearances, 9 tournament victories, and 450 years of training and winning wars and invading realms. Because every time Goro or Shao Kahn would conquer a realm, he would literally go conquer the realm, right? And that's how he got Edenia and Katana as his daughter, and Sindel, I was blanked on the name. Sindel as his wife, because he beat Edenia 10 times and then he conquered the realm. Well, he was hoping to do it with Earthrealm with Goro, and he got so close, but he failed. And that is actually where most of Goro's story is, believe it or not, because depending on the universe that you're talking about here, Goro would eventually lose to Liu Kang in the 10th and final Mortal Kombat tournament, and thus saving Earthrealm from Shao Kahn's rule. He also has lost to Johnny Cage a few times, including in the movie. You just broke $500 glasses, asshole. And a couple other warriors along the way. But Goro, even in his defeat, still maintained himself as one of the strongest warriors of all the realms. And he frequented many Mortal Kombat titles over the years, including being in the reboot via Mortal Kombat 9 officially, and then being in 10 and 11 in loose ways, as well as being surpassed in certain ways by his fellow Shokan warriors. There you go, Kintaro and Shiva. So while he may not have like the deepest story in Mortal Kombat, he does have a lot of history, and it's very much key to the series. Now, in terms of his fighting style, Goro is known for his absolute brutality. As a Shokan warrior, he uses forearms to brutal effect. He'll hold an opponent with 2 arms and then beat him up with the other 2. He has been known to literally rip limbs apart. His stomps are so powerful and so mighty that he can literally leap off a screen, like a gaming screen, and jump back down with deadly impact. He can obviously hold his own against some of the greatest fighters in all the realms. That's why he won 9 Mortal Kombat tournaments in a row. He's 2,000 years old based on most accounts, depending again how you view the reboot and everything. So he's got plenty of fighting experience, and he's been able to crush bones, crush rock, withstand blows from Shao Kahn's Wrath Hammer, though it should be noted that Shao Kahn was not wielding the Wrath Hammer at the time. He was able to take devastating injuries. He once had all 4 of his arms cut off, and he still lived and was able to beat up guys just with his legs because he's a boss. Um, he's been a good guy. He's been a bad guy. He once allied himself with Katana so that he could protect both his people and the Edenians going forward. Then he betrayed them when Shao Kahn came back because he was about to die. And going back to his fighting style, he not only uses a lot of brutal attacks, he uses certain long-range attacks, mainly in fireballs. Because don't forget, he's part dragon. So he has the ability to use his forearms to shoot fireballs from his hand, usually one at a time. He can do a flame breath attack, which has varying levels of intensity. And he can even do like a spin move that allows him to incorporate the fire that for just absolutely devastating damage. So yeah, he's pretty tough to kill. However, he does have a really key flaw. He's arrogant to a fault. All right, whether you believe in the games or the movie, the original movie, he is so boisterous about his abilities, which is, if you think about it, it's rightfully so, right? Because I mean, he's 8 feet tall, he's 8'2" and 550 pounds with 4 arms and all muscle. He's won nine Mortal Kombat tournaments, so he's kind of done something right. Okay, anyway, but a smart opponent like Liu Kang or Johnny Cage or Kotal Kahn, I'll get to him in a minute. They'll use that arrogance against him because Goro will sometimes even stop a fight to say, "Hey, you're gonna lose. Just let me kill you with dignity." Right? Because he does have some sense of honor. Like he believes in the Shokan Code, like the Shokan Code. For example, when Kotal Kahn fought him during a battle of their armies, Goro had him dead to rights, and he said to Kotal Kahn, "Die with dignity, die with dignity like your father." And Kotal Kahn did not like that at all. So he literally chopped his Goro's arm off, and then did 3 more swings to chop off the rest of his arms, and then just left Goro to suffer, and suffer he did. So yeah, he's kind of arrogant, and that will get in his way sometimes. But most times it doesn't matter because he's just so brutal and powerful that he can just devastate you. He has multiple kinds of fatalities, including like the arm, the appendage ripoff I told you about. He can use his dragon breath to incinerate you to oblivion. He has the chest bump where he literally, I'm not even gonna describe it. Let's just say you're gonna be missing a lot of limbs and a hole in your chest. Um, he is able to literally stomp a person into oblivion. He can he has various kinds of brutalities, which are all incredibly gory. It's Mortal Kombat. What do you want? And so on and so forth. So he has, between his basic techniques, his brutalities, his fatalities, he can kill just about anybody. But the question is, like, how strong really is he? Well, a lot of that is plot armor, including, which is something we'll get to with Machamp as well. But we can know that he has enough power to just rip people apart. Like, he does that so often. It's crazy. So that's a repeatable feat. Obviously, with Test Your Might, um, in which he was actually a QTE event in Test Your Might, he can obviously shatter Diamond, which we know is very, very tough from all of the other Mortal Kombat characters we've battled against. Um, yeah, he's got a lot of strength. Now his speed, that's a little bit tricky because he's known to be an agile fighter, like as we've shown with like the stomp, but in later games he's shown to be a little bit slow. And it's said, yeah, he has supersonic reaction speeds, but whether that's actually the case is debatable. And not to mention, he's lost to people that he technically should have beaten. Like Liu Kang is powerful, Johnny Cage is powerful, but should they really have been able to beat Goro? That's a little bit debatable. Kotal Kahn is another story entirely, but if we're talking like just pure fighters with Liu Kang and Johnny Cage, they really shouldn't be able to beat him, but they did because of using the arrogance against it, and in Johnny's case, using the terrain and all that. And yes, I know I'm talking about the movie, but in Mortal Kombat Deception, Johnny Cage also killed Goro. So at least that's what I read. So yeah, it's a little bit tough to gauge his power, but there's no doubt that he is one of the most powerful beings in the Mortal Kombat universe. He's revered as one of the best bosses in video game history because of his absolute brutality in the first game. And they keep finding ways of bringing him back and bringing back his race and making him important. So, yeah, Goro's pretty much a boss. And he was a boss. And now he's around. Hmm. All right, moving on to the world of Pokemon. Once upon a time, there was a creature called Machamp. And Machamp had a goal of just getting stronger. He would even wander the world, searching for a master to teach him all the ways of martial arts. And once it got enough experience, that Machamp would evolve into Machoke, a being so powerful that he had to have a weight belt to actually focus him. Kid you not, focus him, because if he didn't have the belt to show his strength, he would actually just look at himself all day long. You like think about Narcissus from Greek mythology. He's that kind of a Pokemon. And eventually, through it's actually kind of weird because technically speaking, Machokes can only evolve through trading, and yet we've seen Machamps in the wild. So somehow, a Machoke can gain enough experience or something like that and evolve into the four-armed mighty muscles of Machamp. Machamp is a fighting type Pokemon and fighting type Pokemon pure, and it is known for not only its martial arts prowess and incredible stamina, but its ability to just bulldoze over everything. Yeah, and one of the reasons that this battle has been so requested is that we know the overall power of Goro because of the Mortal Kombat tournaments, but with Machamp, it's a little trickier because he's only appeared in the main series a handful of times, both in the TV show and the movies. The manga appearances haven't been as much a help, and most times if he's fighting a main character, he loses because of plot armor, which I'll get to in a bit. But the other problem here is the Pokedex entries. All right, and I looked up from red, blue, yellow, all the way to Sword and Shield, and Machamp has got some absolutely bonkers Pokedex entries, which we know that they're going to use because of the preview video which we just saw. They were reciting that for Machamp and Machoke, so we know they're going to use it for Machamp. So some of the highlights for you, if you will, is he is a master of all martial arts styles, which can be attributed and backed up by the fact that Machamp, as noted, travels the world to try and find a master to teach him martial arts. So by the time he's Machamp, he knows like all the martial arts. He knows all the martial arts. Okay, and then hit one arm can move a mountain, just one. So imagine what four can do. And then my personal favorite, which is repeated over and over and over, including in more recent entries, Machamp has the ability to grab an opponent and throw them beyond the horizon. So I don't know how you calculate that. I mean, if we're talking just like relative distance from you to the horizon, that's pretty dang far. So yeah, and then the one that Death Battle is definitely going to have to calculate. Um, it can throw 1,000 punches in 2 seconds. Now, if this was just like red, blue, yellow Pokedex entry, you could take this as word of God. Like, oh yeah, we're saying to you that he can do this, but can he do this? We don't know. But this was repeated multiple times, including as recently as X and Y, which is absolutely canon. So while you could say that they were exaggerating a little bit for, the beginning series, just to try and show you how powerful Machamp was, a little hard to say that again when they're repeating it over and over and over and over and over again. And again, this is backed up by the whole, one arm can push a mountain, he can throw a person over a horizon, etc., etc. So Machamp is pretty boss. And now also recall that when it comes to Death Battle rules, they're looking at the most powerful version of Machamp. So we're talking all the moves level 100. That's what they did with Lucario. That's what they did with Charizard. That's what they did with the Pokemon Triple Threat. When it comes to wild Pokemon, they're going. I know I said Charizard because of red, but they inferred that it was a level 100 there. But they do maxed out wild Pokemon, which means he has all the moves that he can naturally learn from levels 1 to 100. And I checked the most recent entries, Gen 8, and some of his highlights include Low Sweep, Karate Chop, obviously, Dynamic Punch, Scary Face, a Submission, Seismic Toss, Dual Chop. Revenge. That's a key one. I'll mention that later, and a lot more. He basically uses all fighting type moves except for one or two, uh, maybe five. So again, his moveset is based on fury and power, right? And he uses that with his forearms quite well. And at standing at a little over 5 foot and 280 pounds, he's lean, he's mean, and he's very, very powerful. Okay. Now in the main series, he's very inconsistent because if you recall Pokemon, the first movie, we see a trainer fighting Ash, and Ash is winning the battle, so he decides to cheat and throws out 3 Pokemon at once. Squirtle beats his Squirtle, just a regular Squirtle, beats him with the Bubble Beam, which makes no sense, especially since Machamp literally just came out of his Pokeball, so he should have been like fully healed, but a Bubble Beam should not have beaten him. So that's plot armor. But in contrast, he fought another trainer one time, and Machamp just totally schooled Squirtle. Totally schooled Squirtle. Totally schooled Squirtle. Darn it. So yeah, again, he's a little bit inconsistent. And then another time, this was in X and Y, ironically enough, my favorite of the Pokemon series. He was shown to be a forest guardian, and Halucha, who had beaten him in the past, decided, hey, we gotta fight again, and Machamp was tricked basically into fighting him, and he was winning the fight. Like he was taking karate chops like left and right, and was just like laughing as Halucha is trying to hit him, right? And then an Ursaring and a Conkeldurr decided to double team Halucha just to be mean. And Machamp decides this isn't a fair fight, so he literally jumps over them, karate chops them each with one hand, and they're out. And then he lifts each of them with one arm and then walks away because he's a boss. So yeah, and then of course if you saw the recent Pokemon Twilight Wings, you got to see B's Machamp. B is a gym leader in Sword and Shield, and that Machamp was he was able to hold a boulder with 2 of his arms, have the third arm behind his back, and do push-ups. Yeah, and while he was shown to be sweating, you can't really tell how long they had been working out, because it's inferred that they had been working out like all day, and why not work up a sweat, right? So Machamp has some incredible feats. Now it's stated in the Pokedex and in other entries that Machamp is not a thinker outside of martial arts. So like if he's trying to do like precision work, he actually like gets his arms tangled. So he tends to look before he leaps. If he sees a fight, he's just gonna rush into it. So there is that. But when it comes to his martial arts moves, it says that his arms move at blinding speed and he will attack from all angles, and that if he gets you in all 4 of his arms, like locked on with all 4 of his arms, the battle's all but over. So Machamp is definitely one of the best fighting Pokemon out there, and with his insane feats, both perceived and shown, it's proven that he's not a Pokemon you want to mess with. So, all right, so who wins in a fight between Goro and Machamp? Ironically enough, these guys have a lot of things in common. First off, they have 4 arms. They're both incredibly skilled fighters. There is no doubt about this. They both have incredible strength. No doubt about that. They are both martial arts masters in their own rights. No doubt about that. Both have incredible stamina. Machops alone are known for, going days at a time with training. And so once you get to Machamp, you can assume that they have that similar kind of thing. And Goro, being 2,000 years old, you know that he's got a lot of stamina in him to go, bout to bout with Mortal Kombat tournaments and conquering worlds and all that. So, like I said, they got a lot in common. Here's where the things start to differ. If we're going by pure experience, there is no doubt that Goro has more than Machamp. All right? And I mean, yes, again, this is a level 100 Machamp. I'm not saying he doesn't have experience, but there's no doubt experience-wise, Goro has it. All right? Between Mortal Kombat tournaments, his 2,000 years of life, conquering realms, working for his father, working with his family, and just being Goro, he's had a lot of fights. And it's true that Machamp trains every day, to achieve his peak physical build. That's not the same as fighting. All right, ask anybody. You can train to do something all you want, but in a fight, it don't matter if you don't have experience. And Goro will definitely have that outmatched. And as we noted, as we saw in the 2 previews this week, Goro is 8 feet tall, 8'2", and 550-pound frame. Machamp is 5'5", or I'll be generous, 5'5". They said above 5 feet, but like, well, okay, 5 feet and 280 pounds. So Goro is 3 feet taller and basically 300 pounds heavier. Now, we all know that size doesn't always matter in a death battle. Voltron Megazord is a great example of this. But it does help at times. And then, but the real question is raw power and skill. And as many of you have told me over the years, this is more than likely Machamp's wheelhouse. Machamp, even with the Pokedex entries, mainly because of the Pokedex entries, if we're being honest, has definitely more outlandish feats than Goro. We know Goro can rip apart a human being. There is no doubt that Machamp could do the same thing. All right, because we've seen him lift steel girders, and he's consistently seen to hold massive boulders. That's heavier and takes more effort than to rip your body apart. Okay, and with the whole, like, he could push a mountain with one hand, then that would mean that 4 hands could probably move a city or something like that. And then the whole, like, I could throw you over the horizon. I really want them to calculate that. I want to know how they would calculate that. But that's another thing. And then of course there's the whole 1,000 punches in 2 seconds. So Goro's fast, but that's like ridiculously fast. So I don't think you can match that. And then there's the fact that most of Goro's abilities are rooted not just in his 4 arms, but his Dragon Fire. Now, the Dragon Fire will help, but fighting type Pokemon are not inherently weak against fire types. So Machamp can get hurt, but then he's just gonna, it's very much a case of, hey, I know you're gonna do fire now. I gotta get away, or I gotta do something so that you can't use fire anymore, right? And when it comes to pure fighting ability, while Goro is mastered like 2 or 3 fighting styles, Machamp has mastered all of them, including one where he actually like wraps up his opponent in what they call the Machamp special. All right, and with 4 arms going up against 4 arms, that helps. Not to mention, certain abilities of Machamp completely outclass what Goro can do. Right, Goro goes for pure physical domination more times than not. While a lot of Machamps are just purely physical, a lot have status effects. All right, there is of course low sweep, where he literally just kicks the legs out from under Goro. Goro doesn't honestly use his legs that much. If you really look at his abilities, it's more he can. I mean, I told you how he beat up some guys with just his legs, but he focuses on his arms, right? And low sweep will knock him off his feet really fast, and thus Machamp can capitalize. He's also got dual chop, which is a 2-hit move, and it's a dragon type move. Why does that matter? Dragon type moves are really effective against dragon type Pokemon or dragon type creatures. And as we've seen in past death battles, they do incorporate the whole, what type advantages matter. And Goro is half dragon, so a dragon type move should do a lot of special damage against Goro. So there is that. And then there's Dynamic Punch, which can actually confuse Goro if it hits. Scary Face can drastically reduce Goro's speed, which Machamp would honestly have the advantage in that. And again, just raw power-wise, based on everything I've seen from Machamp, I think she's got him outclassed. Now, I honestly went into this fight with bias, but then once I started hearing all of your comments and like looking at the Pokedex, I just think Machamp totally owns this. Now, Goro does have some factors. He's got obviously the bigger build, but Machamp has been training all his life, and bigger opponents don't always mean certain victories. All right, it helps at times, but it doesn't always work. So yeah, and again with raw power, the speed, Machamp's actually quite speedy. Look at his maxed out 100 stats. He can be quite speedy if he's trained the right way. And of course, his overall power and defense is just massive. Add that with his stamina, his training. I honestly have to pick Machamp for this death battle, and I can't wait to see this one. I really think it's going to be good. So that I am ending this episode of Todd Talk. Who do you think is going to win between Machamp and Goro? Do let me know in the comments below. And what things do you really hope to see in this 3D death battle? Because I am expecting the world and more. Oh, and how do you think Machamp's gonna win? That's the real question, because we've seen Pokemon kill moves in the past, and it's been quite brutal. But I really want to know how you think they're going to do it with Machamp if he wins. Because Goro, we all know what Goro can do. That's almost like a non-factor. But what would Machamp do? That is the question. So I thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I know you were listening, and I'll see you around.